And now, let's hear from a different kind of leader, champion, and game changer. Someone who has mastered the world of cyclocross. She is a game changer in the sport as she juggled motherhood, elite athlete training, and the public's perceptions regarding age and gender. Biodesics is honored to welcome Kristin Weber to the stage.
I'm Kristin Weber. Yeah, all right. You guys are an easy crowd. I love you. Thank you very much. I'm a mom of three. I'm a business owner. And in my mid-30s, I decided to start racing cyclocross. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about this sport and get you guys into it. This is cyclocross. It started in the 1900s. It was the pro road peloton in Europe trying to stay fit during the off-season, and they would move from town to town and race each other to the next town's steeple, kind of a steeplechase style. And so they would go off the road, onto the gravel, up hills, carrying their bikes, whatever. And this is how modern-day cyclocross started. It was a way to work on your bike handling skills for basically the road racers in Europe. So now in modern-day cyclocross, I'm going to show you a little video. I love this video because that's really what it's like. It's kind of, right into the rut. It's same kind of principle here, but we're now in a modern-day cyclocross race where it's on a circuit. It's a criterium-style race. They usually last about 45 minutes. They're taped off. It's a mass start. And they're done in these parks everywhere, and they take the natural feature in the park and they make a course out of it. So what's super fun about cyclocross and what makes it a great spectator sport is it's done in the fall and winter. So there's often a lot of mud. And so, as you can see, the mud becomes a huge component of how you race. And sometimes you get off your bike and it's faster to run, and sometimes you ride through the mud, and it's very much about bike handling. There's often a sand section that's part of normal cross, and barriers, something to get up and go over. It could be an actual barrier, which they do, or stairs, and you shoulder your bike and take it with you. So as you can see in these races, it's pretty exciting. Makes for a great spectator sport. So there's mounting and remounting of your bike. So imagine going 15 miles per hour and trying to get on your bike. So that's part of the technique that is very much cyclocross. So this is me remounting a bike in the middle of a race. And it's one of the more daunting parts of cyclocross for new people because, you can get hurt, quite frankly. So there's always an element in races of going over a barrier. This is a natural barrier in a race course that I'm doing, but this is at the World Championships, and this is a 18-inch wooden barrier that some people are able to bunny hop. I prefer to keep my shoulders intact, but that's what it looks like. This is back home in Boulder, Colorado. We have a purpose-built bike park. This is me running up the Valmont Bike Park steps carrying my bikes. Doesn't that look fun? And as I said, lots of running, lots of mud, lots of conditions, and it's really, for me, I come from a mountain bike background, so I really enjoyed the bike handling part of it. This is me running in Mol, Belgium, where I did the World Championship. This particular course was like a big beach, and so there was a ton of running. So a little bit about my history. I was born in Ohio, and I was raised outside of Philadelphia. All right, some Ohio. I'm from Dayton. My parents were an architect and artist, and I have a brother and a sister, and I went to Montessori school through 6th grade. I really grew up playing in the woods. I was always a little bit of a tomboy. Now, 15 years into my career, I've been on the Masters World Championship podium 4 times. Thank you. Thanks. I won, last year I won the PanAmerican Masters Championship, and I've been on the podium at Nationals 9 times, winning it 5, and I've won the Colorado State Championship 6 times. So winning's fun. I love it. Can you tell? Anyway, how did I get into this crazy niche sport? It was a little bit of the right time, right place kind of scenario. I played collegiate soccer. I was always an athlete. I had a bunch of kids who were born in 04, 06, and 08, and I was looking for a way to get fit again. And I had gone to a cross race in Boulder, and I was like, that looks really fun, and it's kind of muddy, and there's this running element, and I was a mountain biker and trail runner, so I was like, let's do this. This looks fun. And we have this expression in bike racing in general called mom watts, like the women who come back to racing again become super fast because they have a very finite amount of time to train. And so they don't mess around. They're not doing the coffee stop and whatever. They are here to train. So needless to say, I got really fast. I had 3 kids, so there they are. My kids all participated in cross early on. None of them do it now, but what I do love about cyclocross is how family friendly it was. It's always at a local park, and it's always very community centric. So it's fun to watch. It lasts an hour, and so you can get done and get back onto your world. Anyway, how did I get here? And I now have, almost 3 kids in college. So, and I'm talking to them a lot about trajectory changers because they're in the phase where you make a decision about something that leads you down a path, and it kind of changes your whole path in life. And you only get a few of these. I'm sure you guys can all think back to the trajectory changes that led you to this room or led you to your spouse or those kinds of things, like these big moments. Cyclocross has been one of the biggest ones for me. It's been a real trajectory changer, but I think it was the compounding effect of all these other ones that I'm going to talk about that kind of led me to where I am. So number 1, I went to Montessori school with my brother and sister, who are here, as you can tell. We're very close. I went through 6th grade, which is a long time to go to Montessori school, but I loved the school, and it taught me a lot about freedom and independence. It grew my entrepreneurial spirit. In a Montessori classroom, it's mentor-mentee because they bring together multiple ages in the same classroom. So it was really where I developed my love of learning and my love of teaching. And also in Montessori method, you're given a lot of ownership to your projects. And so that teaches confidence at a really early age. Number 2, my immediate family. Just huge games and sports family, like always in some sort of competitive event. And now as I'm raising my kids, and I think about what my parents did, they raised 3 high-achieving kids without ever saying the word achievement, which I'm kind of like, how'd they do that? What was their special sauce? And I want to emulate exactly what they did with my own kids. And I think it's a little bit of they led by example. It was definitely the 70s. They were never around. I don't know. There was no helicopter parenting going on there. So, but in me, it fostered this kind of drive for success. And then I went to college, and I was this weird combination of fine artist and athlete. And this has sort of been this weird mashup that I've been dealing with my entire life. So I knew I wanted to become a graphic designer, but I also love sports. So I wanted to play collegiate soccer. And I went to a design school specifically that had a good reputation for graphic design. So I ended up at WashU in St. Louis. Is anyone from St. Louis in here? Yeah! Anyway, WashU also has been a 2-time national champs, women's soccer, the last 2 years. So I'm going to give them a shout out because I'll tell you what, when I started soccer, we got the boys' old kits. So they've come a long way from when I was playing soccer there. But so while I was at WashU, it was another kind of unassuming trajectory changer. And this for me was, I joined the WashU ski team. And this is definitely not St. Louis. So, but we would go on a spring break trip, and I went to Breckenridge. On the ski trip, I fell in love with Colorado. So after I graduated, I came back, and I moved to Colorado. And that's where I got my first design job. And then that is where, which led me to bikes. Number 5, trajectory changer, is kind of its own keynote address. I ended up working, I got a job my last year of my last year of college at a guest ranch in Wyoming. And I grew up horseback riding, but definitely did not know anything about Western ranch culture or whatever. And this particular job, I started as a junior wrangler, and I worked my way up to the corral boss. This experience was super formative to me as a woman, as an athlete, and as a leader of teams. We're going to do kind of a deeper dive on this one because it's kind of unique story. And I got this job. My mom insisted driving me from Philadelphia out to Cody, Wyoming. She was like, what's this job that you got? And I don't want to just like leave you off and riding off in the sunset with a bunch of cowboys. And so she drove me, and my first day was like, bought a new Stetson. She dropped me off. I got on a horse within an hour, and we did a 3-day horse drive over the Wyoming mountains from Cody, Wyoming, over Dead Indian Pass into Sunlight Basin where the ranch was. It was totally epic. I don't know if any of you guys have seen The Man from Snowy River, that movie, but that scene where he's like dropping off the cliff and like hats are flying off, that was literally what it was like. We pushed our herd of horses from their winter pasture to their summer pasture over the BLM land. It was really cool. But it was a really defining time for me. I managed the herd of horses and cows, and I, branded and castrated calves, and I vetted and learned how to shoe, and I learned a lot about horsemanship and ranch life. And what I did was I earned the respect of legitimate cowboys, like people who had grown up in that culture. My biggest takeaway kind of as a person too was just learning to navigate other people's personalities that are totally different than my own. I also learned that really anything is possible. Like, who knew that I could come as an East Coast girl and become the boss to all these cowboys. I was in my mid-20s at this time. So then from there, I went on to get a job at Schwinn. So it's really kind of a funny story. And I just want to point back to trajectory number 3, which was design and athletics. So I went to school and I was trying to figure out how to be that person, and then I ended up working as a graphic designer at Schwinn. So it was really like a coming, into the real world with these 2 skills that I had been honing. This is a sign of the times. So in my interview was me and 5 guys sitting at a conference room table, and one of the guys goes, "Hey, Kristin, how do you feel about working in a boys' club?" And I was like, my head imploded a little bit, but I was like, look back, in my head I'm like, trajectory number 5, like I've just been a corral boss, I can do this. I think I said something like, I'm kind of a tomboy and I have a brother. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what I said. Anyway, I got the job. So, and I remember I made like $24,000 and I thought I was totally rolling in it. But it really became like I worked there for 3 years. It was a really important time of my life. This is when I really started racing bikes. I met my husband there, and we got married. And then I started having ambitions of my own to become my own boss. Surprise, surprise. But during this time, I joined the Schwinn homegrown mountain bike team, and I started racing my bike a lot. So from there, some of the women who were on the Schwinn homegrown team, we decided we kind of wanted to give back to the sport that we love so much. And so we joined forces with Luna Bar, and we created the Luna Chicks mountain bike ambassador team. And our main goal was just to give back to women because we had had such incredible mentors ourselves. So we used to have 100 women show up to a mountain bike clinic on a Thursday night. They wanted to learn from other women about how to mountain bike, and we wanted to give back. So from there, at this point, I'm totally smitten with cross, and I wanted to be on just a specific cross team. So I joined the Boulder Cyclosport team, and there was a couple guys on this team who were masters and world masters champions. So I was like, oh, if I get close enough to them, maybe I'll get good too. From there, of course, I want to be my own boss. There's a theme here. But so I started my own team, and I've been running a team out of Boulder, mostly gravel and cross and mountain bike. But let's get back to the racing, because I think there's a lot of life lessons to be learned from racing your bike. How many people in here have raced a bike? Couple people? Okay. Well, this is all really new to you then. Okay, so in 2010, I did my first cyclocross race, and I bought a $250 Surly with down tube shifters. So that's those two things sticking up there. That's how you shift the bike. And that is so dangerous in a cross race. You guys have no idea. So I did this race. My kids were like 4, 6, and 8, and I had a blast, but I never shifted the entire time because I did not want to take my hands off the handlebars. But I loved it, and I was hooked, and at this point, I'm 37 years old, so I'm totally learning this new sport. In 2011, being a mom of 3 kids, I was like, I want to get fit. I'm really into this sport. I raced a full season, 20-plus races. I went to a Masters Worlds and Nationals, and I podiumed at both, so I was really sold. Things were starting to get a little bit more serious. In 2014, Boulder was hosting the national championship, so our town was pumped. I mean, some of you guys are from Colorado and know how big a cycling community it is. And at this point, I had kind of a reputation. I definitely was pegged to win, and a lot of expectations from myself and other people put on me. But it's just funny how life gets in the way of things like that you want to do. And 2 weeks before my nationals race, I was hit by another cyclist. I was literally standing at the finish line of a cross race, and this guy with his head down came sprinting through the finish line and T-boned me and hit me really hard. I ended up on the ground. I got horrible whiplash. I had a bad neck from all those horses. But I ended up, they thought I lacerated my kidney, and I was like, I've got nationals. And then my kids got sick, and I had 2 kids with severe asthma, and then I got sick and was on antibiotics. And then I crashed in my warm-up for my race. And I know you guys have all been following Lindsey Vonn. I just felt her crash so viscerally because I've done that before, crashing before the big show. And this was the first time I crashed at a nationals, but it wouldn't be the last. I mean, I've had a couple epic crashes the day before my big race. Anyway, I did the race, and I ended up 6th. So the podium's only 5 spots, and 6 is a little bit of the kiss of death. You're just like, oh, so close. So I kind of tucked my tail between my legs, and I just turned that negative into a positive. And I'm going to go back. I'm going to start over. I'm going to refocus. And besides, when you have 3 kids under 10, like, you cannot wallow in your own pity. It's time to just keep going. So in 2015, not to spill the beans, but this is when I won my first national title. So I had spent the last year visualizing a lot about winning. And I used to finish my training rides, and I would roll into my neighborhood, and I would literally post it up every time I'd finish my ride. And I'm sure my neighbors were like, what is wrong with this woman? But I was like, this is where I'm going to be. This is what I want to do with myself. So before this race in 2015, we were in Austin, actually, and I did the whole visualization thing. And I know you guys have all been watching all the skiers who are like, that's literally what I was doing in the car. I was like choreographing the whole race and, where to shift and where I was going to run. And then I went out and started the race, and there are all these women who I'd been racing with who I would call my carrots, and they have been, people I've been chasing around for years, literally, just never quite able to beat. And this woman behind me here is Melissa, and she beat me all season long. And she and I actually got away from another one of the carrots. And I was like, Melissa, let's go. We've got this. I was like, I'm just psyched it's going to be a Coloradan who's going to win this national title here in Texas. And then I looked back, and all of a sudden, she was getting popped off of my wheel. And I was like, this is my moment. This is what I have been training for. This is what was in my brain this whole time. So I ended up winning by 45 seconds. So 45 seconds, thank you. 45 seconds is a long time in a cross race, I can tell you that. So I was able, cross racing, you're very present. It's so technical that you don't have time to think about much else. But when you have 45 seconds, I was able to kind of roll it in the last 20 seconds, kind of absorbing that moment. So I'm 42 years old at this time. And in the interview with Cyclocross magazine that I was doing afterwards, I did this weird thing where I totally betrayed myself. And I said, I just chalked it up to luck. I actually said the words like, I think I won this. It was so lucky. And I'm like, I still cringe a little bit even hearing myself say that, because it wasn't the luck. I trained my patootie off for this. I worked really hard. I had a coach. I had a support structure. It was a culmination of all these choices that I put into this effort, and I had visualized winning this. So after my first national championship win, I began to really learn to win. It's like when you start becoming successful, you really start believing that you can do it, and you kind of get a formula in the sense of like you know what it takes and whatever. And it's not to say that every win has been easy. It certainly hasn't. They've all been really difficult. But starting to know how to win was a huge dynamic mindset shift for me. So in 2025 of this past year, I won my 5th national title by 2 seconds. You can see this 2 seconds. This is 2 seconds right here. That's how close we were. 2 seconds is the difference between like not going to the gym one day, or deciding it's too cold to go ride your bike, or making bad choices about drinking and eating, all these things. But this race was a real culmination for me of all the things that I had been doing up until this point. And I actually went in really prepared. The competitor was a pro roadie. Literally, that's what she did for her job. So this course really suited her. It was a much bigger power course. I'm more of a technical rider. But I prepared for this course in particular to race against her in particular. And so I was able to dictate the pace, and I wasn't panicky. But I made one mistake in this race, one mistake. And like the consummate professional that she is, she just jumped on it. And she got a gap on me in about 10 seconds. And I was like, I can't believe I just lost this race. I can't believe I just lost this race. And then I just had like a momentary blip, and I was like, no, let's go. You have half a lap to catch back up to her. That's all it's going to take. We have this expression in racing where you come to a race with a box of matches. You have so many efforts. They're finite in a box of matches. But I was like, I burned every match that I had to catch back up to her. And I caught up to her so fast that I think it surprised both of us. Literally, it was the last technical feature in the race, and it was going over some of the barriers. And when I caught her, she kind of bobbled because I think I came in so hot. And I was able to get by her, get back on my bike, and beat her in the longest sprint finish home stretch ever by 2 seconds. Thanks. But I think I won this race in particular because of one main reason. I race against better people all season long. So this is my age group, but I race in the pro field all year long, even though I could go have a podium every weekend if I wanted to. And I understand that surrounding yourself with better, faster people makes you better and faster. I'm going to tell you one more story. This is about this race called Schoolyard Cross. It's one of the most well-attended races in Colorado that we have. There's, U.S. national team girls come, the pros come, the ex-retired pros who are still pros come. Everybody's fast. It's a huge group, and we're all lining up in the start grid like this, and the announcer goes, this is so amazing. There's so many awesome women here. I'm so glad to see everybody. There's women here who are 14 up to 50. I think we need to call this the teenager to Weber category. Again, my head was like, oh. So I just was kind of in disbelief a little bit, and it was a little bit of ageism. And In that moment, and I just decided to use that. I used that fuel for my fire. And I raced really fast that day. I was in the mix as a 51-year-old competing with literally kids were in there who are under 20 and on the national team. And I wore that badge. I wore that like a badge of honor, actually. I carried it with me that year to win my first PanAmerican Masters Championship and a national title. So it was really just changing that narrative about being the oldest. And that somewhat irritating comment actually became like great fuel for my fire. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. This is really my mantra. This is what I teach my kids and what I teach people who come to my clinics or are on my team who are beginners. Surround yourself with the best people, and you too will become better. If you aren't stretching to reach for something, you are comfortable, and comfort does not win, especially in a cross race. And as it turns out, this is when athletics and science really come together. This mindset is called neuroplasticity. So I know all the science people in here are like, she's finally talking about something I can relate to. But the irony is not lost on me that I literally only took 8th grade biology. I know it's horrible. I can't even believe I was able to graduate high school. But all 3 of my kids, luckily, are making up for that by being scientists. So I have my eldest daughter's at Michigan finishing up, and she's a biochem major. So she might be looking for you guys for a job here. She's going off to get her PhD. My middle child's at Colorado College, and she's studying to be a physician's assistant. And my son's about to go to college, and he's interested in marine sciences. So they've made up for my lack of science background. But I've always really been fascinated by science, especially neuroscience and sports psychology and how it relates to what I'm doing on the bike. And I was using neuroplasticity all along. I just didn't have a definition for it. But I became a better and faster athlete as I got older because, well, A, I understood a lot more about nutrition and training than I did. But really the biggest, most dramatic thing was having this mindset shift, the visualization, the positive thinking, the problem solving. So neuroplasticity works like this. If you think thoughts like, I can't do this, why am I racing against kids who are 30 years younger than me? This is so hard. Your brain fires the same neurons. And when you repeat that enough, those neurons wire together, and your brain is starting to build pathways of limitations. But the good news is the opposite is also true. So when you think to yourselves, I've got this, I did the hard work, I love to suffer on the bike, your brain starts to rewire for strength and focus and confidence. And it's your brain's ability to reshape itself based on what you feed it. So when you change your thoughts, when you fake it till you make it, you aren't just thinking positive, you are physically reprogramming your brain. Your brain becomes a reflection of your most consistent thoughts. I'm going to repeat that because I think it's so important. Your brain becomes a reflection of your most consistent thoughts. Make sure your thoughts reflect your best future, not your present fears, because your brain is listening to every single word that you say to yourself. Think about that. Think yourself into a better version of yourself. Back it up with the actions of hard work, focus, commitment, determination. Every time I rolled into that neighborhood and I posted up, or I said to myself, I can beat these kids, I was one step closer to the future I wanted for myself. This is game-changing. So my story is not really just about cyclocross, is it? It's about so much more than that. It's about how we live our life every single day. It's about what we are feeding our brain and how we are seeing ourselves in the future. So I implore you to try this and try it daily. With this mindset, you will surprise yourself. I promise you, I did. Thank you.